95% of entrepreneurs fail. They don't make it. You can't make $500,000 a year, $1 million a year or more if you're doing minimum wage tasks.
Please welcome Hector Padilla, a renowned entrepreneur with a real estate portfolio valued at nearly $100 million.
I don't like the word grind. I don't like the word grinding. To me, grinding means that you're not working intelligently and you're not using leverage.
A lot of us are in the hustle and bustle. We're working our butts off to get to the destination, the dream life. You're there.
I only work half days. I'm working the first 12 hours of the day, and that's considered a half day. When you're in your 20s and you're not married and you don't have kids, it's go time. 12, 15-hour days.
There's a stat that 90% of real estate agents don't break 6 figures, and 90% of earners don't break $174,000 a year.
This business is extremely hard. Some hacks may work, but you can never go wrong following business fundamentals and time-proven wisdom.
That's the most powerful, simplest way that I've heard it to this day.
I've never heard it. Good morning.
Good morning.
First and foremost, thank you so much, Hector.
Good morning.
Que te apreciamos mucho. We value your time. I saw your post that you were in LA. Let's meet.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do it. So thank you so much for making time.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if everybody noticed, but he gets here, he greets everybody, including Bree. And a little bit ago, I was having a talk with our leaders. Mm-hmm. And I said, there has to be consistency in how we treat those around us. I'm observing how you treat your mentors, in this case, me, your colleagues, your partners. Make sure that that's consistent. And then anybody that's admin, anybody that's W2, anybody that you have under your team, like there has to be consistency there.
Absolutely, 100%.
And if we were ever to go to a restaurant and let's say you be one of our mentors, we were to notice that you're the type of guy that's like, hey, rápido, un café,
right?
You know, so I appreciate what I just witnessed here.
Yeah. What's important with that, Andy, is like, when you go to a business dinner, right, and you're meeting another businessman there, mm-hmm. and so you greet each other. But one thing that I learned early on is that you have to show more appreciation for what we call the help.
Yeah.
And the help is the doorman, the waitress, the bellboy, not the bellboy, the busboy.
Yeah.
They don't always feel that appreciation. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times when we go to a nice restaurant, we'll go to, right here, Mastro's in Beverly Hills, is on the side, I'll go up to the busboy and I'll say, hey, thank you so much for the help. And we're still having dinner, and I'll give him a tip. When the guy opens the door for me, I give him a tip. So I always show what we call the help more appreciation because they don't always receive it, right? And other people are going to study you. Just like you notice that. When you go out to dinner, you go to a meeting, people are going to study you on what are you doing? How are you treating people? Yeah. Or are you only treating the decision makers with respect? Or are you treating everybody with respect?
I love that.
Yeah.
Would you add anything to that?
I wouldn't add anything. I think that just, it starts from the top, So if our leaders are doing the correct thing and everyone is observing, so I would say as leaders of the company, it's up to us to set the example. And no better way than, you leading by example as soon as you got here.
¿Cómo dice el dicho que it happens in our company and it happens in parenting, but your kids won't listen to what you say, but
they're watching you.
Yeah. But what
they're watching everything that you're doing, and they're listening to you, and they're going to pick up your verbiage. So the verbiage that you're using, your kids are going to pick it up. And the same thing when you're starting off a business, your juniors, your new hires, your assistants, they're going to pick up the verbiage of thank you, I appreciate you, that was extraordinary, right? So what verbiage are they going to be using?
I love it. So let's go into a set of questions here. I'm very excited to hit some of these. So you're enjoying the dream life, and it looks good from the outside in. I see you very involved with Bella. She's doing, ¿cuántas activities está haciendo? ¿Cuántos sports?
And she's doing tennis, pickleball, Krav Maga, piano, surf, and soccer. Yeah, 6.
That's incredible. So I love to see that. But here's a question for you. So a lot of us are in the hustle and bustle. We're working our butts off, going to seminars, reading the books, paying for coaching to get to the destination, the dream life. You're there. What are some things in this season that you're experiencing that maybe when you were working toward it have exceeded your expectations? I know that right now we can only imagine what that life could look like. Have certain things, I know certain things maybe are not how you experience, and like maybe not as good as you would have thought. Some are kind of how you envisioned, but there are a few that I'm sure are like, wow, this is the marriage or the parenting, or what comes to mind.
So I would say, number one, don't look at it like that, Andy.
Okay.
Don't see it as, oh, this is my destination. You have to enjoy the journey. Okay. You have to enjoy the journey while you're going through it. And because you're starting off your business, or someone else is getting into the business, they can't get suffocated and letting the business run them. You need to run the business and enjoy the journey. And one of the big mistakes that the juniors make is that they're always going for that financial goal of, I want to make $1 million. I want to become a self-made millionaire. So what I would say is be guided, number one, by your family values. That's what has to keep you grounded and going in a straight line. Then your second would be your financial goals. And I think to better understand this is remember that your values are like the climate. It's got to be consistent. Your family values have to be consistent. Your financial goals are like the weather. One day it's going to be cold. The next day it's going to be hot. They're always going to change. But your family values have to be consistent.
What would be examples of like what the
family
family
values?
values could look like?
On the way up here, we were just having a conversation in the car, and we were having dinner with another very affluent family. And they run a business, but they're letting the business run them because the husband was on the phone and he couldn't stop being on the phone. So instead of putting the phone aside, right, him running the business and being able to focus with his family, he wasn't, because he's worried about those financial goals.
And do you think that there are seasons where it would make sense for some of our business owners that are listening and following, that they do pick up the call, that they are connected 24/7, and then maybe later when the business mature, or what's your take on that?
When you're starting off in business, when you're in your 20s and you're not married and you don't have kids, it's go time. Let's go. 12, 15-hour days, right? Like people, when I first started, be like, how did you become so successful? And I would say, I only work half days. So they would say, oh, so you're only working 4 hours a day. No, I'm working the first 12 hours of the day or the second 12 hours of the day. And that's considered a half day. Okay. So when you're young, you got no kids, you're not married, it is go time. If now you're married, it's still go time, and you need to have buy-in from your wife so that she understands, why are you working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day? And then you have to have a schedule that she understands. So whatever you call your sweetie, right? The wife, the sweetie, amorcito, whatever it's going to be, it's, listen, Monday through Thursday, it's go time for me. Between the gym and work, I'm putting in 12-hour days. I'll be home at this time. Now, Friday night, that should be, maybe it's your date night. Saturday, you're going to work at least 4 hours in the business. Then afterwards, it can be family time. Sunday should definitely be family time. There's a book, a very famous book, right? And it says 6 days of labor, 1 day of rest. Right? What's that?
The Bible.
The Bible, right? So that Bible has time-proven wisdom.
Yeah.
Now, as you get older and you do have the kids, if you're in a deal and you're having dinner with your family, but you know that your attorney's telling you, hey, I may call you at 6 o'clock because this deal may go one way or the other way, then yes, you're going to be waiting for that one call. But for the most part, how often does that happen?
Not very much.
It's rare.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're going to have dinner with the family, put the phone aside. Every more and more people are talking about, get off the social media and focus on the dinner. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Willie shared that a couple years ago, where he realized that he changed the way he was doing business, because before his first, let's say, 10, 15 years in business, he was the guy that was promoting that he would pick up the call 24/7, including the weekends when most people would clock out. But then later, he said that he realized that once he was away with family and in a vacation, that he realized that was more important, even if it meant losing the deal or even the partnership with you know, those agents. So I took note of that.
100%. And that's also why you need to have a team.
Yeah.
You need to have a team. And like one of my mentors said, he said, Padilla, if you do not have an assistant, then congratulations, you are one.
Yeah.
You can't make $500,000 a year, $1 million a year or more if you're doing minimum wage tasks. So as soon as you can afford having an assistant, you got to get that assistant, right? So that way, when you're having your family dinner, maybe you're forwarding that call to the assistant, right? And maybe when you're on vacation and you can forward the calls and delegate everything to the team. So it just depends on where your business is at. But as soon as you can afford to have an assistant, get that assistant so that you can focus on wealth building action and not time wasting activity.
Yeah, I can see how when we go from the W-2 world to becoming owners of our own business, the hustle and the high levels of activity is highly promoted. But then at some point that belief has to be discarded. So and that's where the leverage game and the seeing a hire as an investment rather than an expense has to be adopted.
And not just that. So for me personally, I don't like the word grind.
Yeah.
I don't like the word grinding. To me, grinding means that you're not working intelligently and you're not using leverage. So I want to work strategically, not grinding. I don't want to grind my health away. I don't want to grind my life away.
Yeah.
I want to work strategically, using leverage, using your dream team.
I love that.
Where do you see that some of the real estate agents now are making mistakes where you would want to see some change based on either mentality, work ethic, the way they conduct business, the way they are trying to get business? What are you seeing that you would say, I would make changes to that?
I would say number one is you can't go wrong following business fundamentals. And what's popular now, especially with social media, is everybody wants to find a hack.
Yeah.
Right? And some hacks may work, but you can never go wrong following business fundamentals and time-proven wisdom. And so part of that is going to be you controlling your schedule.
Yeah.
Controlling the schedule, getting your prospecting in, getting your lead follow-up in. Business fundamentals do not change. So if the realtors are making their phone calls, if they're knocking on those doors, if they're going to those networking events, if they're working strategically, they're going to do well.
Yeah.
But if they're just doing TikTok and thinking that TikTok is going to make their business boom, that's where they go wrong.
Yeah. 1,000% agree.
Yeah. So they have to follow, again, time-proven wisdom and business fundamentals.
What would you say are your basic fundamentals that you would teach in today's business if you were to run a brokerage?
The brokerage it's really going to be the big thing is controlling that morning schedule. Controlling the morning schedule. Having at least 10 wins every day that you can control. So what are the 10 wins that you can have every day that you can control? Number one, waking up on time.
Yeah.
Taking a therapeutic shower. And what I mean by a therapeutic shower is starts off cold to make sure you wake up, but then having an attitude of gratitude while you're taking the shower. And it may sound a little corny where everybody says, oh, I have an attitude of gratitude, but how many of us have it?
Yeah.
To really say, thank you, God, for giving me another opportunity. You hear it now saying the $5 million morning. And what that means is, if I were to tell you, I'm going to give you $5 million tonight, but you cannot gift it away. You have to be the one spending it. But tomorrow morning, you do not wake up. Would you take the $5 million? And they won't take it because that means you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a $5 million morning. Following it up by your rituals and your habits, the therapeutic shower, reading for 10 to 15 minutes, something positive, 5 minutes to do your journaling, going to the gym, and not maybe for an hour, but maybe it's 25 minutes of weights and 25 minutes of cardio and getting to work. Getting to your money-making office, your wealth-building office. Then what? Start dialing for dollars. Start your prospecting. Check on your marketing. Do your lead follow-up. You can control all of those things. So those are 10 wins that you can have every day. Those are things that you can control.
I love that.
Yeah, otra pregunta. So this one is shifting back to current season in your life. You've been in Mexico and in Cabo for what?
A year.
little over a year?
Yeah, a little over a year and a month.
Is this your first time living or staying in Mexico this long, or had you done it before?
No, it's been my dream to live in Cabo since 2005.
So what's something that you've learned to appreciate about our culture, Mexicans, or our raza?
Yeah.
Now that you've gotten a chance to interact with them on a daily and for so long.
Oh man, they say nada pasa.
No pasa nada.
No pasa nada. No pasa nada. No matter what it is.
That was one of our sayings.
Yeah. No pasa nada.
¿Cómo que no? Me robaron el carro. No pasa nada, ahorita te lo encuentro, señor.
And we were there. I posted on my Instagram, and the gas tank was going to blow. Actually, the gas tank blew, but it didn't catch on fire. Yeah. And the guy comes in, he's like, tienen que correr, va a explotar la casa. And we're like, what? Corran. And I see all the handymen fucking bolting out, running, and I'm like, shit. So I grab Bella and Patty, and we run out barefooted, no wallet, no passport, no cell phones, nothing.
Yeah.
And we run out, and sure enough, the gas tank was going to go.
Crazy.
Yeah. And we call the owner to tell her that the fire department's coming and, yada, yada, what are we going to do? She's like, no pasa nada. I was like, if the house blows, I'm going to have no passport, no credit card, no cash. I don't even have, phone numbers, no cell phone. It would have been an ordeal. Luckily, nothing happened. But what I would say about living over there, it's definitely a more chilled lifestyle. It's just enjoying life. I call it the beach life. And
resort
style living. Yeah.
Resort style living.
At one point, I was telling Patty, I'm like, Patty, why is everybody happy here?
Yeah.
And she's like, because everybody is either retired or they're on vacation.
Yeah.
So everyone's in a good mood and no one's stuck in traffic. Every time I come to LA, I'm driving an hour to 3 hours a day in traffic. Yeah. And I'm looking at people as I'm driving on the freeway and everyone's miserable. They're on their phones. They're miserable. The anxiety, the stress of being in traffic. It's just, to me, it's not healthy.
I think the quality of life.
Quality of life, man. It's just, and then for me now, it's, I make dollars from my real estate portfolio. So I make dollars and I live in pesos. So we live well.
Yeah. So a couple of days ago, I met a gentleman, 21, 22 years old. He's from Afghanistan, but he lived in India. Then he moved to, I forgot what other country. Ecuador. Then in Mexico. And then now he just recently got here about 4 months ago.
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know how you guys do it here, bro. Everything's about work. Yeah. Everybody's so anxious. The quality of life is terrible. Man, I'm just going to look to make my money and I'm going to bounce.
Yeah.
Because $100,000 here with how expensive everything is he's like, when I was in Ecuador, I would think, what, $30 an hour or $20 an hour? Oh man, I would be living it up.
Yeah.
But the cost of living is also a lot different. So it's just crazy how this is our norm.
Yeah, and we talked about a hack earlier, right? But here's a hack that works. Invest in cash-producing assets, whether it's another business where you don't have to be there on a daily basis, or build up your real estate portfolio that's producing $100,000 or more a year in income, and you can live plush in Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, Mexico, Italy, not to mention like Vietnam, right? Thailand. You can live like a king. You can live like a king.
Yeah.
If you have $100,000 a year in passive income.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I love about Cabo is a 2-hour flight.
Yeah.
It's shorter than LA traffic, right? So in 2 hours, I'm in and out.
How did you come to that decision that you wanted to pretty much build your empire and live in another country? Like, what made you come to that realization that that's the path that you were going to choose?
No. So when I first got into the business, so I started off by, I went from being a newspaper boy at the age of 10 to then having other little jobs and little businesses that I would create, and then becoming a police officer. Then from there, I became an assistant to a broker. Then I became a buyer's agent, listing agent. I opened up my brokerage. Then I got into the flipping business. And then I finally started my real estate acquisition and investment firm. And I started focusing on multi-million-dollar properties. Okay, so that was kind of like the journey right there. When I first got into the business, my whole thing was I want to become a self-made millionaire. If I can become a self-made millionaire, then that was it. I did it, right? You know what happened? When I made my first million, do you think I was happier than pigs and shit? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Actually, I was. But for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Because I made my first million and then I realized I still felt like I was broke.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm a millionaire. I felt like I got to make more money.
Yeah.
So I became a self-made millionaire at the age of 29. And then I said, okay, I got to become a multimillionaire. At the age of 30, I had $2 million in the bank and some real estate. At that point, I thought I made it. But guess what? It still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Because my overhead would continue to go up.
Yeah.
Right? And then later, when I got married, guess what happened to my overhead, Andy? You just experienced that, right? You just got married, right? So your overhead now goes up. And then I started making more money and I said, okay, now I made it. But then what happened? Bella, my daughter, arrived in 2014. So now I had more overhead, especially with the lifestyle that we were living. So Bella, how much do you think Bella was costing me here in LA a month? Per month.
Like school. And
12 to 15,000.
Exactly.
Bro.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'm shocked that you got that number.
Yeah,
People say,
had shared it.
1,000, 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was about 12 to 15,000.
Private
Between
school
her
is not
private
cheap.
school, 4,000 a month. Coaching, about 2,000 a month. Her full-time nanny, 4,000 to 5,000 a month. Right? Healthcare, it just adds up. So now I had to make more money. But to answer your question, so I didn't start off as I'm gonna, build this business and move to Cabo. It started off as I want to become a self-made millionaire. And then I hit that goal and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, I'm going to become a multimillionaire. And then I hit that and I still didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm a multimillionaire. But it wasn't later until 2005 when I went to Cabo and I loved it. Beautiful. And I bought my condo there that Andy has stayed at. And I'm like, I want to move down here. But I couldn't because I was building the business.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, I got married and I told my wife, hey, let's move to Cabo. And she said, I came from Honduras to live the American dream. I'm not going back to Mexico. Right? But later, she's like, you know what? Let's move. And then that's when we moved to Cabo. But it's been my dream since 2005 to live in Cabo. And I didn't make it happen until 2024. Yeah, so it took some time.
Just recently.
Yeah, and a little over a year and a month. Yeah.
So I got a question here. So
hold on, before I forget,
Go ahead.
this is the point I wanted to make. So everybody talks about I'm gonna be a billionaire. I want to be a Billy. I'm gonna have a brick. Okay. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Don't focus so much on how much net worth you want to have. Focus on the monthly cash flow. The number one word is lifestyle. And lifestyle means what kind of car do you want to drive? How much is that going to cost you per month? Number two, what kind of home do you want to own? In what city? How much is that going to cost you per month? What kind of vacations do you want to take? How much do you need to save to be able to pay for those dream vacations per month? So what you want to figure out is how much is it going to cost me per month to live my dream lifestyle? For some people, it's $10,000. Then it's going to become $25,000, $50,000. But I'm going to tell you right now, once you're making $100,000 a month in passive income, you're living plush. You can pretty much eat at any restaurant you want, take your vacations, drive any car you want, and you're living well. So come up with that number. How much do I need to make per month in passive income to live my dream lifestyle? Don't focus on trying to become a billionaire.
okay, so
Keep it simple.
You laid it up perfect because that's exactly where I was going. So then you call that the magic number, no? Identifying the magic number that we should be investing in real estate that cash flows that exact amount because we've taken the time to get crystal clear clarity on what we're working toward. So what happens when in the next 10 years we hit that? Like in this season of life, what motivates you? Because you reach that magic number, you have your portfolio performing. Where are you at with that? What's next for?
Okay,
for you?
so here's what happened with me. So, we're living here, we're living the lifestyle, right? But it's big overhead,
Yeah.
right? And then I heard this shaman say, they asked him, what is poison? And he said, having more of anything than what you need can be poisonous. So for me, I don't need more real estate. I have one daughter. The inheritance that she's going to get, knock on wood, we don't go to World War III, is way more than what she's going to need. Okay? What I want more is time freedom. I want more time with my daughter. And that was another big push to move to Cabo. So for me, my why now is to invest more time with my little girl. She's 10. Maybe when she's 13 and she becomes a teenager, she may not want to be with daddy that much anymore, right? I'm on my first marriage. I don't want to get a divorce. I want to invest more time with my wife. My parents are elderly. I want to be able to have more time freedom to invest with them. So I don't need more apartments. I don't need more commercial real estate. My wife and I just had this conversation, and I said, you know what? Maybe when Bella turns 13, or maybe when she turns 16 or 18, I may go hunting again, just for the sport of it. Yeah. Not because I need the money anymore, but just for the fun of going for that hunt, going for that kill. And that's closing real estate deals.
Yeah, I like it. So then, while you were building your business, how do you believe you would have defined success then versus how you define it now? If it's any different than like what you just said, time freedom and time with the little ones, with the wife, with your parents.
So that's a really good question, Andy, and something that people need to get that crystal clear clarity on. Mm-hmm. So remember, I call it 3CP. Yeah. Crystal clear clarity equals power. Mm-hmm. When you have crystal clear clarity on what you want your business to look like and what you want your lifestyle to look like, that's what gives you the power. Mm-hmm. Because then you learn how to say no to a lot of things so that you can say yes to what's important to you. You guys have to have a definition. What does success mean to you? Right? Yeah. What does wealth mean to you? Yeah. When I'm up speaking in public and I'll say, is one of your goals to be successful? Do you want to make more money? And everybody says, yes, I want to make more money. And then I'll carry a wad of $100 bills and they get all excited, right? But then I pull out a dollar bill and I'm like, there you go. You just made more money, right? Are you excited now? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that's the problem. Is that everybody says, I want to be successful, but they don't have a definition for it. Mm. I want to become wealthy, but they don't have a definition for it.
Can we do that tomorrow? What? That would be so funny if you did that.
Yeah, I'll do
it. I'm gonna borrow that one day.
So you have to have the definition of what does success mean to you and what does wealth mean to you. Mm-hmm. And everybody has a different definition, and that's okay. Yeah. Right? So for me right now, I'm not trying to buy more real estate and be on that hunt. I want to invest more time with my daughter, with my wife. I want to invest time with me and just enjoy the good life. I love the time freedom, you know. So that to me right now is what's being successful, is being healthy, fit.
Does he look good for 40 or what?
50.
That's amazing. He was just making sure you corrected him. That's why.
Oh, you look great.
50. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, 50.
No says he's just for men, or if you don't.
No, you know what? No. I still got the grays. I still got the grays. Yeah, they're coming out. Yeah.
So in the topic of business, I have another question regarding business. Me and Andy are both growing, amazing businesses. He's a little bit more ahead in his season of life. You're way more ahead in your season of life. And I like to think we are building something special. In the future, currently, how do you maintain integrity and honesty in your companies while making big decisions? So I feel like currently, while we're building the business, sometimes big decisions have to be made for the good or for the better. How do you maintain the integrity in your companies while doing those decisions?
Okay, so when you're because you're running the brokerage side, right?
Correct.
The real estate brokerage side. The same thing with the loan side, though. One big thing when you're recruiting is you want to make sure that you're hiring missionaries, not mercenaries. So a mercenary will do anything for a quick buck, including stabbing you in the back, because they're just there to make a quick buck. Versus a missionary, they're there for the mission. They're there to serve the company. It's kind of like, who was that? I think it was Ronald Reagan. Was it Ronald Reagan who said, it's not what's best for me, it's what's best for the country? Mm-hmm. Was that Ronald Reagan?
I want to say it was.
But long story short, that's what it is what's best for the company, not what's best for you as an individual, but what's best for the company. And you want to make sure that you have that buy-in from everybody in the team, everybody in the company. Is we're doing this for the company so that everybody benefits from it. What I would tell my agents, and especially when we were doing fix and flips and they had an equity position on the fix and flip or even on the long-term hold, is I would say we have to take care of the golden goose that lays the golden eggs that feeds everybody.
Wow.
That's what I would tell them.
So good.
And then, pay attention to little things. I had a good friend of mine a long time ago, and he was a really good friend of mine. But from the beginning, I would notice that he was a scorpion. He was always taking shortcuts. He was always thinking of ways to make money, even if he screwed somebody else over. He was always trying to make a quick buck. And eventually, he wanted to commit fraud to make more money. And then when he wanted to do that and involve me in it, cut him out quick. So pay attention to the little things that people do. And you want to bring in missionaries.
That's the most powerful, simplest way that I've heard it to this day.
I've never heard it. I've never heard it, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'll be studying it.
And continue having those. So you want to have those team meetings and make sure that you're getting buy-in from everyone. And then you want to have those one-on-ones. And the one-on-one, it doesn't have to be 3 hours long. It can just be 10 to 15 minutes to check in on people.
Okay.
And what is their personal goal? What are they going through? How can you help them out? So you want to have those private one-on-ones and then also the team meetings.
Okay.
And make sure that you're continuously getting that buy-in. And part of your team, man, if you're married, part of that team is your wife. You got to have the buy-in from the wife because this is not easy. Everybody thinks, being an entrepreneur, we're going to make millions. We're going to crush it. We're going to become billionaires, right? But let me ask you this. If you were going to go and climb Mount Everest, would you be like, it's going to be a simple climb. I'm going to take my little backpack, my water bottle, and vámonos.
No.
Right?
No, it takes, I think, years of preparation.
Yeah. And how many people have died on the way up to Mount Everest? I think this year alone, it's been over 300.
Yeah.
You can see all the red flags of all the people that died, and yet people still want to go climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
The same thing with being an entrepreneur. 95% of entrepreneurs, what? Fail.
Yeah.
They don't make it. But yet people still want to become entrepreneurs, right? So what you're doing right now is you're building this brokerage, is you're going to climb Mount Everest. It's not going to be an easy climb. And you got to train for it, and you got to be mentally ready for it, and you got to be emotionally ready for it. Because some of the people that you're going to recruit, guess what? They're not going to stay with you.
Yeah.
And some of them may stab you in the back. And you got to be strong enough to continue to push forward because your goal is to climb Mount Everest. But it's not an easy climb, and very few people make it.
That was
Incredible.
powerful.
Yeah, I'm going to look to see where in tomorrow's presentation I pull a little bit of that out of you. Here's something else. So we're building the business right now, and I'm enjoying it. I love it. This up until now is my Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like this is my favorite season in life. Now that you are enjoying your dream lifestyle, looking back, what's something you took for granted when you were building the business that would be wise for us to... Like when I think of high school, I'm like, man, I miss the friends. I miss certain things about other seasons in life. What should we not take for granted as we're building?
It's going to be that. Sometimes when you're in it, I didn't always realize that I was in that flow.
Yeah.
And I was working 10 hours, 12, 15 hours a day, 45 days straight. And I actually loved it. But I didn't always realize that I was loving it.
Yeah.
Right? And then what I missed was the team building, is the partnership, the camaraderie, what's the word I'm looking for? The culture. Culture.
We can bring you in the board. Let's go. One of the board of directors in the company.
Yeah.
But
actually, that would not be a bad idea to see what because that's how board of directors work. There's like a annual or a quarterly fee.
Yeah.
For you to be algo así.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. See if we can get to your number.
Yeah, we'll have
So that's on payment plan.
Cabo board of directors.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
But I would say that is enjoying the team building.
Yeah.
And enjoying what you're doing for people, especially in this business. Look, in this business, whether it's real estate brokeraging or loans, you take men that were cops like myself, firefighters, nurses, teachers that were making $50,000 a year, maybe $100,000 a year, and in this business, they're making $100,000 in 3 months.
Yeah.
That's life changing. But now, what you need to do with that is teach them how to control it, because most of them, what do? They make $100,000 in 3 months. They're like, man, I'm bottle service.
Yeah.
Man, I'm living the life, right? And what are they doing? They're swiping it.
Yeah.
Meaning they're swiping the credit card to get the Gucci shoes, to get the Ferragamo belt, to do all these luxurious stuff to look rich.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, they spent 120% of what they grossed,
Yeah.
not of what they netted.
Yeah.
And so why is it that so many loan officers and realtors have tax problems? Because they're spending 120% of what they're making. When they swipe it, they don't even realize that the interest rate is 20 to 25%. That's way higher than hard money loans.
Yeah.
And we're
Right?
complaining about 6% interest on houses.
So I always tell people I would rather you to have the discipline and understand delayed gratification to become wealthy and not to look rich. Become wealthy. Don't buy into that fake flash.
That actually segues into my next question. Part of our company is building leaders. And as you see today, we're in a room full of amazing men. And you mentioned the Bible earlier. We're all trying to get closer to God just as much. What does being a holy man in business and in your family mean to you? Like, what is the role of a strong man mean to you while building a business and in your family?
So driving up here, one of the gentlemen said that in a family, the most important role is to take care of your wife, right? And then the kids. And I said, well, not necessarily. The most important person in my home is who?
You.
That's it. I'm the most important person in my home. Because if I don't take care of me, I can't be there for my wife. If I don't take care of me, I can't take care of the household. If I don't take care of me, I can't be an extraordinary father. And that's one of my goals. I don't want to be a good father. A good father is like a good employee. And what does a good employee do? A good employee will help you break even at best. If not, help you lose money. Right? So I don't want to be a good father. I want to be an extraordinary father. So what I would say as you're becoming a leader, always take care of yourself. Invest in yourself. Invest in your number one asset, which is yourself. And part of that is what we talked about earlier. It's the morning ritual, is making sure that you're reading every day, making sure that you're journaling every day. And a journal entry can be 3 little quick bullet points, or it could be, I'm having this massive problem, and identifying what is the seed of the problem, and then coming up with 25 solutions. And when you can identify the seed of the problem and you rapidly note 25 solutions, I guarantee you the solution is going to be one of those 25. Because the first 2, 3, 4, 5 solutions are fast. But then you got to think, what's solution number 7? What's solution number 15? Right? So I would just say, again, if you're going to be a leader with your family, in your business, is take care of you. You are the most important person.
The biggest liability.
Yeah.
Or you can become, you can either become your number one asset or your biggest liability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Last time Patty was in the audience watching our podcast. If she were here today and I was like, hey, Patty, del 1 al 10, what would you rate Hector as like a husband when you first got married? And then what would you rate him today? What do you think she would rate you?
I just asked this question to my daughter.
Okay.
And I told my daughter, what do you rate me as a father on a scale of 1 through 10, 1 being horrible, 5 being average, and 10 being extraordinary? And she's like, Dad, an 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And my wife, if she was here right now, I don't want to get sentimental. Not with the wife, with my daughter.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask my wife that, she's either going to say a 9+ or a 10.
Okay, so the reason why I ask is that I was guessing that that's what you were going to score.
Yeah.
Just got married. What are and that's something we're investing heavily into this season, in getting mentorship when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
To make sure that we do not build a business and neglect the home or parenting or being a spouse. What's a number 1, 2, 3 things that you'd recommend that we consider? I know you've talked about buy in from our significant other as we're building our businesses. What are the, again, top 1, 2, 3 things that you'd recommend we consider for those that are married?
All right. So there's numerous things.
Yeah.
But one thing is that men need to understand that women think differently. Women are more emotional, right? Women don't always say what they want. I'll give you an example of that. When, Patty and I were having a movie night, and Patty says, it's cold. And I'm like, no, I feel it's fine. And we keep on watching the movie. And then later she says again, it's cold. And I'm like, I feel good. And we keep watching the movie. So then that night we go to bed and she put up the China wall, the wall of China. You know what that is? That's freaking pillows in between both of us. That means there's no dessert for daddy. Right? And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, I asked you twice to bring me a blanket. And I'm like, Patty, you never said bring me a blanket. Yes, I did. I said it was cold. And I'm like, okay, you made a statement. You didn't ask for what you wanted.
Yeah.
So women will make statements, but they won't always
Do you
ask
agree?
for what they want. We have the audio visual girl in the back saying, yes, I agree.
You got back there like, listening. That's funny.
But that also happens with men in business and in relationships, is that we make statements, but we don't ask for what we want. So you have to know what you want, ask for what you want, and then be a pain in the ask. Not a pain in the ass, but a pain in the ask. Continue asking until you get it. But going back to marriage and women, so you need to understand your wife, right? We call it the love languages. There's 7 love languages, right? So what are her love languages? And she needs to understand you. When I was in go mode and, I was already married, when I come home, my wife knows, leave me alone. I don't want to hear about any problems. I don't want to hear anything.
You just came back.
Let me go into my man cave. Let me take a shower. Let me recalibrate. And then we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But that's me. So your wife needs to understand you and know you, and you need to understand your wife and know your wife. For me, it's never been important for my wife to clean our home or to make me dinner or to do the laundry. Like, that's not what's important to me. Early on, we hired a house manager to take care of the house because I want my wife to have energy, right, for me, and to be able to enjoy each other. So that's another recommendation that I give men is, as soon as you can afford it, I would hire a house manager to take care of the house so that you can keep the fire going in the relationship.
Yeah, I heard you say that before. You said, can you imagine, especially if your significant other also has a 9 to 5, or they're also working, and for us to expect them to go work, to come back and clean the house, to do the laundry,
Take care of the
cook,
kids.
take care of the kids, take care of themselves, and then still
have time for romance. Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's
so
not going to happen.
I
So
think
you
that was
definitely have to take care of the wife and make sure that you provide so that you guys can keep the romance going and continue to date each other. You know, my wife and I, we've been, we just celebrated our 13-year wedding anniversary. We've been together for 18 years and we still date 2 to 3 times a week. Just her and I will go out for dinner. We go out for a drink, right? And we just enjoy each other still. And then something else that's really important, Andy, is allowing your wife to have her time, whether it's her alone time or whether it's time with her girlfriends. Is let her have her alone time.
How about the bucket list? She created her bucket list as well, and you helped check that off as well, or?
So that's what I call one of my bigger accomplishments. So if you guys haven't seen the movie Bucket List, watch the movie. When I watched it, I asked my parents, what's on your bucket list? And my parents gave me their things that they wanted to do. So my dad was going to be a priest. So he wanted to go visit the Vatican. He wanted to go to Rome. He wanted to go to a World Cup. So I made that happen for him. My mom wanted to go to Spain, Italy, France, and tour Mexico. And I made all that happen for her. And not only, I didn't just buy it and tell them to go. It's part of enjoying that journey together. So we went together, right? So that's a big win. And I did the same thing for my wife. What's on your bucket list? And we've hit them all, right? So yeah, find out what's on their bucket list and work together to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. You talked about, I think it was age 30, you had $2 million in the bank or something like that, 30 something.
Age 30.
So how does playing the money game change once you're sitting in that position where you got money parked? What beliefs need to change so that you preserve your money once you do make? Because right now we're busting our butt to make it.
Yeah. So
what changes?
Okay. So what I would say with that, a couple of things. Number one, money is a tricky thing. Don't let it trick you. Okay. I met this wealthy man at a club in Cabo, and right now everybody wants, the young cats, what I call the young cats, they want the yacht and the jet. And I met this older man, and he owns a yacht and a mansion, not a jet, a yacht and a mansion. And he said, Hector, I don't own the yacht and I don't own the mansion. The yacht and the mansion own me. And somebody on social media said, oh, it's because he can't afford it. And I'm like, no, dumb shit. He owns them free and clear. He can afford it. What he means is now he's got to manage the management team running the yacht. Mm-hmm. Now he's got to manage the team running the mansion. When you have a mansion and you have a cook and you have housekeeping and you have gardening and you have security, all of a sudden there's a fight between the housekeeper and the chef. Mm-hmm. And now you don't want to let go of the chef because she makes your favorite breakfast, right? Now you got a problem. So those problems never end.
Yeah.
Something else with money is when you first start off and you're at a level 5 and you have a level 10 problem, it's a big problem. But as you start to level up and now you're a level 9 and you got a level 10 problem, it's not such a big deal anymore.
No pasa nada.
Yeah. Yeah. No pasa nada. Yeah. Yeah. And it's true. Most things will resolve, right? But just understand that. And another thing is keep your overhead low. I'm able to live the way I live. I have a G-Wagon and a Porsche GTS right now, right? I don't have a garage with 5 Rolls Royces and 5 Lamborghinis. Number one, it's not something I want. Number two, it's a big problem. Now you need someone managing the cars, mm-hmm. right? So I keep my overhead low and my income is still coming in strong where it covers the overhead. So that's what gives me that time freedom. So understand how you're going to work the money and don't let the money work you.
Yeah, so the CEO of Telegram was interviewed and he said he doesn't own anything, no properties, no real estate, no nothing, because what he wants is the freedom to bounce around wherever he wants and not feel like he's tied down to anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's what came to mind. So there was a lesson that you mentioned to me in the past that you learned from Bob the Billionaire. ¿Cuánto tiempo llevamos? 50? Okay, cool. Bob the Billionaire. Was it Bob?
Yeah. Well, no, Bill.
Bill
the Billionaire. I've had 3 mentors, and they were, I've had numerous mentors, but I've had 3 mentors with the name of Bill.
Okay, so
this was Bill the Billionaire.
The gentleman that you emailed, where you got a 9-minute phone call, and I believe it was him that you asked, what's something you're pretending not to know?
Right.
Was it that?
Yep. But that was another Bill.
Oh,
he had purchased $2 billion in real estate.
Okay.
And
that's powerful.
So what happened with him was I'm always looking for mentors, right?
Yeah.
So I asked him for him to become my mentor, and what did he say?
I'm busy, or no?
He said no.
Yeah.
So then I was being a pain in the ass, and I asked him again, and then what did he say?
No.
Right? So then I said, "Can I have a 9-minute mentorship call?" Mm-hmm. And then what did he say? No. He said yes. Yeah. And the way I got him was a 9-minute mentorship call. His first question on the call was, hey, why did you say 9 minutes? And I said, because I value your time and I knew you were going to ask me that. So I appreciate this. Let me ask you my questions. And I stuck to those 9 minutes, right? So when I asked him that, what's something that you're pretending not to know? He thought about it. And then he said, you know what, Hector? I was in my Palm Desert vacation home. Mm-hmm. And it was a Saturday or a Sunday. And he goes, Hector, I'm in the office right now. So he's in the office and I'm on my vacation home, right? And he's in his late 60s, early 70s. And he says, I just realized that all of my friends my age have time freedom and they're enjoying their life. On this, Saturday, Sunday, I'm in the office. And I'm in the office because I need to be here. He was leasing 2 floors of Class A office space. And then he was running developments. So those developments don't get done in 1 year. They're going to take 3 to 5 years. And then he borrowed so much money to be able to invest in those developments. Now he owes money, and now he's got overhead and paying those investors every month.
So he needs to work.
So he needs to work. He needs to cover that huge overhead. And that's another reason why I never wanted to build a monster of a business that eats up my time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, and it goes back to, well, at least the way I perceive it is reverse engineering the crystal clear clarity on what we're working toward, what's on our bucket list, what's a magic number, and knowing when to stop.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind. Okay, so there's a stat that shows that 90% of real estate agents, loan officers don't break six figures. And 90% of earners in the nation don't break 174,000 a year. Why do you believe that most, what top, let's say, skills, beliefs do you believe keep our people stuck under those?
It's gonna go back to the hiring process.
Yeah.
When I was first recruiting my real estate agents and my agents to do flips, they would see me and I'm in a tailored suit, and back then I was driving an S500, and they saw my private office and my office, etc., and they're like, "Man, I want to be like you," right? And then I made it sound easy, so they would all be like, "I'm in," but they thought it was going to be easy. Then they realized it's not easy. It's climbing Mount Everest. Right?
So good.
So when I switched my interview process, especially when I was building my acquisition firm, I let them know this business is extremely hard. If you're willing to eat white rice and drink water for 2 years, then maybe stay in it. Because you're going to get excited that you're closing a multi-million-dollar deal and you're going to make X amount of money, and you worked on it for 2 months. And on closing day, guess what? It doesn't close. And you're going to fall on your knees and you're going to cry, literally. Yeah. And you got to have the stomach to continue to push forward for 2 years, because those 2 years are extremely difficult. So what happens is, you guys, I don't know about you personally, but a lot of brokers are hiring snowflakes that don't have the cojones, that don't have the stomach to work hard, to work those half days, to be able to put up with the rejection, to know the first 2 years I'm eating cup of noodles. I would tell them, the first 2 years, this is what you're going to eat. Breakfast is peanut butter and jelly. Lunch is cup of noodles. And for dinner, if you're lucky, macaroni and cheese. Right? But that's what they have to understand, is that this is not easy. I'm going to have to work really hard, but the payoff is worth it. So that's what I would tell them, is change the interview process. Yeah. Make sure that you're hiring people that are willing to put in the work, and that they're missionaries, not mercenaries.
Yeah, when I talk to someone that is thinking of joining, I'm very diligent on assessing where I believe their skill set to be, because we don't want to grow our company. I get to see everybody's payouts, and I get to see who's made what and how many of our people are even making any money. And I get to know them enough to where I know their personal story. I know their life. I know their, at least up until right now, which is, we got, 30-something loan officers. And when you combine both companies, it's getting close to
about 70, 75.
Yeah. So I know them all.
Yep.
And I don't look to bring just anybody in, because I feel a commitment to not only making sure that they're putting food on the table, but they're also getting a crack at making their dreams a reality. So I'm very diligent on making sure who we let in. And last year, more than half of our team made over 150.
Nice. Yes. That's really good.
So ahí la llevan. Some of them are breaking their multiple. This guy made almost 400,000 last year. I think it was 391. Nice. So they're touching money for the first time, and you touched on it briefly already. But what are the things that you recommend for some of the people in our team that are touching money, that type of money, for the first time in their lives? 20, 30, 40, 50,000 sometimes a month.
You guys see, okay, so that income is good. Okay. So you're going to be, rich, but you're not going to be wealthy with that. So you need to bring in that team so that you can really start to focus on, what's the word I'm looking for?
Is it leverage?
No, it is leverage, but you can scale the business. Yeah. So when I first started, I was by myself, right? But then when I recruited 3 other agents, now it's me and 3 agents. Then I recruited 5. Now I had me, 2 buyer agents, and 3 listing agents, right? So I was scaling the business. So you got to scale it, and then you got to make sure that you're taking those commissions and that you're investing them into cash producing assets. Again, whether it's real estate or whether it's another business that can operate without you being there on a day-to-day basis. So invest those commissions, that active income, into passive income.
So this is one of the main reasons.
Keep your overhead low. Keep the overhead low. Don't get that huge house that you don't need. Don't get 4 cars. Have 1 car, 2 cars at max.
Yeah. So I love this. This is a personal favorite for me. And the reason why I want you to speak and pour onto our team. Sorry that I'm hogging it, bro.
No, you're good.
So we talk about this a lot in our company, that no one's going to create wealth through commissions. It's what we do with those commissions that we get a crack at creating wealth. But what do you say to the people that have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 single family homes? Because there's also the mice deal, the scenarios that you've shared with us, and the difference from Rhino deal. So what do you say to the team members that we have in our company that may have 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, single family with maybe 50, maybe they're cash flowing a couple $100, maybe $1,000 a month, $50,000 to $100,000 in equity. What do you advise them?
It's what my mentor Dan Pena, the $50 billion man, and by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, Andy, but I'm on his wall of fame for hitting 100 million. Yeah. Right. So Dan Pena vetted me, and I got on his wall of fame for buying over $100 million in real estate. And here's what he told me, because when I went over there, I was kind of showing off that I had the duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, and the condos and the houses. And he said, pendejo, nobody ever got wealthy by buying duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. You got to roll those up and get into multi-million-dollar properties if you want to be wealthy. I guarantee you, all of you guys that are buying those duplexes, if you do your return on equity for 2 years, you're not making much money, because you guys think, oh, my mortgage payment was $1,000 and I got $2,000 in rent, so I'm making $1,000 a month. No, you're not. Once you take into consideration the maintenance and the repairs, and you do that for 2 years, you're going to see that the return on equity that you're making is peanuts. And that's why you can't create wealth from that. Unless you continue to do that and you wait till you're 75. Then you'll become wealthy. Right? Yeah. So but that's if you live to be 75. If you learn how to do a roll-up and you sell those mice deals, the tiny little deals, you roll them up, you do a 1031 exchange, and then you level up into a multi-million-dollar property, that's how you're going to become wealthy.
So how do you calculate the return on equity? Because this is why right now I'm selling, and you might, ¿cómo se dice? Darme un coscorrón for what I'm about to do. So I'm selling a property in Northern California to buy a fourplex in San Diego, where I'll do house hacking. I'll be living in one and renting the other 3 with intentions of adding an ADU to then make it a commercial. I think you told me that in the past, where an ADU is going to be the same work, it's going to cost the same thing, but when you add an ADU into a commercial property,
the value goes up.
Yeah,
commercial goes up. Yeah,
so
residential 4 units or less, not.
Yeah, so then the reason why I'm selling my property in Northern California was because you discussed the return on equity scenario. But how do our people calculate that?
Yeah. So very simple. Go onto YouTube and punch in return on equity, and it's going to give you the formula. But basically what it is you're going to see how much equity do you have in an asset. So your equity, call it $500,000, but you're making X amount of money every year. So you do the return on that equity, and you're going to see that you're making 5%, 7% on your money or less. So that's not a high percentage. When you want to create wealth, you have to make minimum a double-digit return. So the return on equity minimum has to be 10% and up, right? Then if you really want to create wealth quickly, is you have to leverage. So if I'm buying a multi-million-dollar deal and I'm not using any of my money, and we sell it and we make $1 million, what's my return? Infinite, because I put no money into the deal. And that's the beautiful part when you're doing joint ventures. I'm the finder. I find the deal. I lock it up under contract. Then I bring you in as a funder. You're funding it. I'm finding it. We're partners. I got no money in it. We sell it. I get my profit. You get your profit. My return is infinite. Right? That's how you create wealth. So you guys have to learn how to do the joint ventures, how to raise private capital, how to partner with the seller.
Seller financing.
Well, not just seller financing. So yes, seller financing, but there's situations where the owners, and that's just something else. You have to know who's your ideal client. So for me, my ideal client is going to be someone who's 70, 75, 90 years of age. They're not looking to get that Lamborghini or to buy the mansion. And they're tired of the real estate. And they don't have the energy to solve the problems. So you come in and you say, tell you what, you put in the real estate. I'll take care of the rehabbing. I'll make sure that we sell it. We're going to make X amount. You're going to get back this amount. Anything over that amount pays for the CapEx, the money that went into the deal. Anything over that amount, we split it 50-50. Right? And now you just did a joint venture with the seller.
That's pretty awesome.
You actually mentioned that when you did Andy's event in Modesto, that you do a lot of seller financing as well. And so then I just recently purchased a laundromat, and I just closed on a fourplex using the seller financing.
Excellent.
So with both units, I was in it. My down payment was $60,000 for both, and I attacked the elderly. Not attacked, but my prospect my prospect was the elderly community just looking to get out.
That's it.
So
They
that
want
was
out.
So after that, I was like, I want to execute this.
Yeah. So just switch that mindset around, and you're going to be the superhero. You come in as a superhero to resolve their problems. Yeah. And that $60,000 that you used as the down payment, who says that has to be your money?
Yeah,
they could have raised the private capital from a private investor, gives you the down payment. Now it's 100% financing.
They actually told me, thank you for getting it off my hands. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't know what this
And what happens with the baby boomers and the elderly is that a lot of them have a business that's actually making money and they don't think it's sellable or they don't even know how to sell it. So when you come in and you approach them, they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to make X amount of money. I'm done with this headache. Take it. Yep.
What is your ideology on joint ventures? I feel like some of our team members are poking around the idea of maybe, venturing together. What is your ideology behind that?
It's just going to, a JV, a joint venture, is just leverage. So you have to see what are their strong points, what are your strong points, and part of that joint venture agreement. So one of my mentors was George Russ, who was Donald Trump's attorney. And what he told me, he said, Hector, he who controls the documentation controls the transaction. What the big printeth giveth, the small printeth taketh away. Right? So when you're doing the JV, you want to make sure you're controlling the documentation and you want to make sure that you're well protected and you want to have a divorce clause so that you have what I call a happy divorce. So once you're ready to move on, maybe I'm not. So I have the right to buy you out. So I can buy you out, you move on, we have a divorce, I keep the asset. Right? So you got to have those kind of clauses in your joint venture agreement.
So you're not against it or anything?
Oh, no, against it? No, all for it.
Okay.
There's only so much you can do with your own money. Okay, so with your own money, you can do some deals, and it's going to take long to create exponential growth. If you want to create exponential growth, you need to do the joint ventures, you need to raise private capital, you need to learn seller financing, and you need to know how to partner with sellers. That's how you're going to create exponential growth. So that fourplex that you have, I would hold on to it for 13 months, 1031 out. And if you have another piece of real estate, bundle them up and 1031 out, not necessarily simultaneously, but as closely as you can so that you can take that equity and get into a multi-million-dollar deal. So I'm not going to say don't do the duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. You can do them, but don't keep those forever. The return on equity is not good.
So here's an example that I would just love to show everyone because I want to actually execute on this. There's one property that I have. I bought it maybe like 8 years ago, and that one is sitting on about $315 in equity. Sell it and do what with it?
What's the property again?
It's just an SFR, and it has about 315 in equity. So if I was to sell it, the ROI on that on equity is about 18%. But what would you do with that?
I would sell it, and I would get into a multi-million-dollar property. So if you have, that house, it's worth how much?
It's probably sitting at about 715.
Okay, 715, right? I would rather see you buy a $3 million property with 10% down, seller financing, and now you're in a $3 million property versus being in a $700,000 house. And then I would reposition that asset, increase the NOI, do a refinance, cash out, take that cash out money, tax-free, and go get into another multi-million-dollar property. And then once you push up that NOI on the first one, exit that one, take that money, 1031 exchange it into a bigger property. Wow. And now you're snowballing it. Next thing you know, you sell one and you bought two. Then you bought those two, you sell those two, then you bought four. And that's how you built a portfolio. That's why I say, people say, oh, how did you do it?
So good.
So I tell people, piece by piece, I built my real estate masterpiece.
Yeah. Wow.
Then I tell people the big difference between the big shot and the little shot. Number one, the big shot started off as a little shot. What was the difference? The little shot kept taking his shots, right? He kept taking his shots. When everyone else went home, what was he doing? He was still on the free throw line practicing his shots. And then at game time, what happens? He's making those shots and people are like, damn, how did he make that shot? But they don't realize that he's practiced for 20 hours that week on taking that shot. And now he becomes the big shot. And everybody thinks, oh my God, he must be something special. But just keep taking your shots, and before you know it, you'll be the big shot.
I guess my last question to kind of finish off what my intent with today's interview was our brokerage's name is Legacy Realty. When it's all said and done, what does your legacy mean to you?
Right now, so when I was a police officer, okay, my dream, doesn't sound crazy.
You told me it already.
Yeah, but my dream was to get killed on the line of duty.
A good and honorable death.
A good honorable death and have this big parade with the music and the whole celebration, right? Later, I'm like, man, that's fucking stupidity. Right? So as I was building my wealth, I was kind of like Steve Jobs. I'm going to ding the universe. And I wanted to have this big commercial building on the side of the 405 freeway that said Padilla Holdings. And now I realize I don't want any of that. Right now, honestly, like my legacy is my little girl. Like she's my number one mentee. I want her to be well-rounded and I want her to be a blessing. We have already been blessed. I want her to be a blessing to numerous people. I don't want her to own 100 pairs of shoes. I want her to gift 100 pairs of shoes. I want her to help single moms in giving them an apartment to live in, to give them furniture, but not for life. Help them out for a year. Maybe it's 2 years, but from there, they got to get going. So I want her to be more of a philanthropist and gift the money strategically, not just we're going to donate X amount of money for whatever. I want her to be strategic with it. And I want her to feel that emotion, that positive emotion of knowing I helped out that individual. I helped out that family. Yeah.
Where are you getting your mentorship on how to raise your daughter? Or is it something that has just come through all of your expertise?
You know what? No, it's not something that comes from my expertise. For me, I was blessed with an extraordinary mother and a really good father. And so I learned from them on everything that they did right, but I also learned from them what they didn't do right. And now I'm doing everything right as best I can for my daughter.
So your parents are your role models how to raise your
Absolutely.
daughter.
Yeah. Again, blessed with an extraordinary mother. When I was little, she never told me you can't do this or you can't do that. And I failed kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. But it wasn't because I was dumb. It's because they told me to sit down. I didn't want to sit down. I wanted to talk, right? So every time I would talk, I'd get in trouble. And I wasn't focused because I had no interest in what they were trying to teach me. But guess what? Now I'm paid to talk. Right?
Yeah, we're
Right?
we're studying Dan Martell a lot. He just mentioned that a lot of entrepreneurs are C students, and it was just because they were improperly engaged through school.
We had no interest in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, most topics we weren't interested in it,
Yeah.
right? We just had to take a certain class and do a certain thing. So blessed with an extraordinary mother and a really good father. I learned from them on everything they did right and also on what they did wrong, and I've switched it. And thank God I've been an extraordinary father.
I love that.
Yep.
Incredible combo,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Hector,
Yep.
thank you once again.
Hey, thank you.
Where do our people follow you so that those that don't follow you already
You're welcome.
can
They
find
can follow me on Instagram. My hashtag is the real Hector Padilla.
you? Awesome.